Well, good morning. If you're just now clicking in to join us, my name is Ryan Phipps. This is Church in Bethesda. Let's get into our lesson from the scriptures for today. Does your mind ever wonder? Does your mind ever wander? One of the most difficult things for me in my life is to be present in the moment that I'm in. I'm always thinking about the next thing at the expense of the present thing. Last year, before summer, my daughter got a terrible burn on her upper arm. And I took her to the doctor, and the doctor gave us some special cream to put on the burn every night before bed. And every parent knows that bedtime is the most insane part of the day with children. Everyone involved is tired, especially the parents, and we just want to get it over as soon as possible so we can have some quiet time to ourselves before we fall asleep. Anyway, on this particular night, I put the burn cream on my daughter's arm, just like the doctor instructed, and then I tossed it over onto the bathroom counter and read to her until she fell asleep. The next morning, I was thinking about all of the many things that I had to get done that day, and I went over to the bathroom in a hurry to brush my teeth, and I picked up a tube of the toothpaste off of the counter. Only instead of it being the toothpaste, it was actually the burn cream. And without even thinking about it, without even noticing, I had put the burn cream on my toothbrush and I began to brush my teeth. Needless to say, it was not at all minty fresh, and it tasted nothing like toothpaste, nor did it have the consistency of toothpaste. This is what happens when we aren't present in the moment. And this happens 1,000 other ways in my life on a weekly basis. It's why I forget my keys. It's why I forget to pack something that I needed. It's why I get speeding tickets. And yes, it's why even those in my life who I love more than anything in the world sometimes feel overlooked and invisible in my presence. It's because my body, my person is there, but my focus, my attention is somewhere else. And I want to do better at that. Our gospel passage for this morning might be a familiar one to you. It comes from the Gospel of Luke, and it says this: As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." The meaning of this story has shifted for me over the years as I've studied it dozens of times. In my early days as a young pastor, I interpreted this story to mean that nothing in life was more important than Jesus. That wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we should be willing to drop it all at a moment's notice and pay attention to the words of Jesus. Later in my life, though, now I am starting to see a different meaning in this passage. If Christ truly is a template for how we are to live our own lives, then wouldn't it be kind of narcissistic for him to insist that nothing is more important than him when he is in the room, and that we should just stop whatever we're doing and just sit down at his feet and listen to him while the pots boil over in the kitchen and the house begins to catch on fire? No, I don't think Jesus wants us to do that. I think what Jesus is saying is something much more different here. He's not just talking about the situation in this specific story, but about every situation that we encounter in life. He's asking us if we're remembering the potential of each moment by giving our presence to it. We participate in the many things we do in this life for all sorts of reasons. Some of them out of duty, some of them spontaneously, some of them for enjoyment. Many of them a blend of one or all of those things. This is what it is to be alive. Our obligations in life are hardly ever all good or bad in and of themselves. They become varying degrees of those things, whether or not we choose to be fully present in them. Brushing one's teeth can be a relatively dutiful experience, unless we substitute burn cream for toothpaste, at which point it becomes extremely unpleasant. It is the same in playing with our children, or sitting at a meal with loved ones, or walking in the forest, or doing tasks at work. In all things, we can choose to be present and purposeful in those moments, or we can be somewhere else. And this is what makes those moments meaningful or distressing. Things like beauty, connection, and transcendence can be found in any moment. They really can, if we are willing to give ourselves fully to those moments. Not just with our bodies, but with our minds and our hearts as well. Everyday moments in and of themselves are not sacred, but we can make them sacred by how intently we choose to be present in them. I can't tell you the number of times where I have been hurrying on my way to somewhere, a million things on my mind, and this happens to me. And almost always it presents itself as an inconvenience to me. But I've learned over the years to recognize these inconveniences as clever disguises for potentially transcendent moments. It can be the voice of my son saying, "Daddy, will you play with me?" while I'm right in the middle of a gigantic project at work. It can be the man on the street who says, "Excuse me, sir, do you have $5?" while I am rushing through the turnstile trying to make the train on time. It can be the person who calls and says something like, "Do you have a ratchet set? I don't even know what that is, and apparently I need one to put this new shelf together." Saying yes to those things initially is painful and inconvenient. But once I do say yes, and I shift my focus and my attention there, I always end up seeing a layer of my life and the lives of others that I would have otherwise never seen before. And I am always the better for it as I look back on it in hindsight. And I think that many of our inconveniences are God's invitations to us to experience something that we never have before. I mean, ask yourself, really, is kindness really a kindness if it's something that you already wanted to do? Is charity really charity if it's something that we'd already planned to share? Is time really precious unless you'd already planned on giving that time to something else? There is really only one thing that keeps an experience, any experience, from being meaningful. It's when we're participating in the thing, but our heart is somewhere else. And we can choose where to focus our heart, even in the matter of a moment. That part of it is not up to God. It is up to us. God's role is simply placing the opportunities before us to be present in. Now, will some of the people in our lives try to take advantage of that? Absolutely. Do we need to know our limits and do we need to be discerning about that? Yes, we do. But even in those moments, in those kinds of situations, making those distinctions is an opportunity to be present in our discernment. We can even give presence to and find meaning when we tell people, no, I can't do that right now. It's just all about being there when we're there and not being somewhere else. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister's left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Are you tired of being robbed of meaningful experiences in your life? Are you at a loss as how they seem to elude you on a consistent basis and yet find everyone else? The truth is they aren't eluding you. They're right there with you in every moment. Are you? As we move into a time of reflection now, where we receive communion, you're welcome to gather the communion elements wherever you're watching this from. If you don't happen to have wine and unleavened bread, it's fine to participate with whatever you have available to you. But I want to ask you over these next few moments as some music plays and we give you some space, to take some time to reflect on your life and where you are choosing to be present in your life and where you are avoiding being present in your life. And to honestly assess the meaning of those two spheres of your life. And to see if you can bring them more together like this by adding your presence equally across the board. As you do, you might see that you're involved in some things that you don't need to be. And that can free up some time in your life to be involved in some things that you really want to be. However that plays out for you during this time of reflection, ask God to be a part of that within you. And then listen. Amen.